Hey night owls, restless minds, and anyone who meant to sleep early but didn't, welcome to The Useless Show, where the facts are meaningless, the stakes are zero, and your brain finally gets a break. For the next little while, I'll whisper some delightfully pointless trivia. Just interesting enough to hold your attention, but dull enough to help you drift off. So lower the lights, mute the chaos, and let your thoughts get lost in the nonsense. And if you've got weird facts or late night thoughts, toss them in the comments. I check them around 3 a.m., probably mid-snack.
So many questions. Why is the world spinning? Why is the moon keeping its orbit? Can rockets fly backwards? The facts you didn't know you needed. The Useless Show.
A beauty guru once went live thinking she was recording a private test. She spent 20 minutes ranting about how annoying her fans were on live stream while applying makeup with a toothbrush. The live comments section turned into a front row seat to her accidental villain origin story. She later blamed bad Wi-Fi, as if the internet had betrayed her soul. In 1972, a Japanese plane experienced a fire on board. The crew managed to put out the flames, but the fire had already severely damaged the hydraulic system. The pilot, unable to control the plane using regular means, literally controlled the aircraft using only the wing flaps, essentially steering with what amounted to tiny car-like adjustments. If anyone had asked for a manual on how to steer with your imagination, this would be it. In 1997, a British Airways flight was hijacked and the pilot's crew was held at gunpoint. The plane was forced to fly off course and go around in circles for hours while negotiations took place. The real kicker? The hijackers didn't know the plane was running low on fuel, forcing them to land in the most bizarre emergency landing of the century. They were saved by the flight attendant's ability to turn a freaking out emergency into a totally surreal game of who's got the fuel. Skiing at high altitudes can make your blood act like it's training for the Olympics. Your body goes, oh no, less oxygen, and starts pumping out red blood cells like a panicked factory on double shifts. You might come down the mountain with blood so thick, it's practically trying to win a gold medal in hemoglobin. The constant cold and wind exposure while skiing can lead to something lovingly called frostnip, which is frostbite's annoying little sibling. Your nose and cheeks go numb, then bright red, and then start to peel like a tomato with abandonment issues. Ski long enough, and your face ends up looking like a half-baked pizza crust. If you fall the wrong way during skiing, you may experience skier's thumb, which sounds like a cute condition but is actually a torn ligament caused by your ski pole becoming a traitor. It yanks your thumb backward, like it's trying to start a thumb wrestling match with the rest of your hand. And your hand always loses. The gaming streamer tried to go live with a horror game but forgot to close his Spotify tab. Instead of eerie background music, viewers got a dramatic ghost chase underscored by Barbie Girl. The jump scares weren't scary, just aggressively confusing. Imagine a demon popping out while Aqua sings, "Come on, Barbie, let's go party." One poor soul thought he was muting his mic during a bathroom break. Spoiler, he was not. The chat went from "let's go" to "brew turn off your mic" in real time. Toilet flush included. Thousands of people now know how many times he washed his hands. Spoiler, not enough. A cooking channel tried a live chili recipe but forgot to turn off the stove. The chili overboiled, set off the smoke alarm, and the live stream turned into a fire drill, while the host screamed, "It's fine!" like a toddler with a crayon mural on the walls. The chili lived. The dignity didn't. The eraser pencil topper is shaped like sushi. It's too cute to use, doesn't erase squat, and smells like plastic disappointment. You try rubbing it on paper, and instead of cleaning your math error, it leaves behind emotional damage and bits of shredded fish-shaped rubber that'll haunt your backpack for eternity. Liquid paper correction tape in the shape of a banana. Someone decided that people make fewer typos if the correction device looks like forbidden fruit. It dispenses about 1 inch of tape before jamming like a cursed arcade machine. At that point, you're correcting mistakes with rage and fruit-themed despair. In Indonesia, the Torajan people keep mummified relatives in their homes, dress them up, and take them on annual walks. They even feed them symbolic meals. Imagine eating lunch next to your taxidermied grandpa wearing a new pair of Ray-Bans and a fresh t-shirt that says #StillDead, but chillin'. One guy in the US dealt with his grief by adopting a raccoon, dressing it like his dead brother, and posting skits of their adventures online. The raccoon, named Chad Jr., now has a fan base. Meanwhile, therapists everywhere are nervously clutching their diplomas and Googling raccoon grief therapy. The harmonica gun loaded bullets in a sliding block that looked like a harmonica. Not only was it slow to reload, but one wrong hand movement and you'd shoot your own fingers off. It had a 100% success rate of making everyone in the room feel deeply uncomfortable. The Apache revolver combined a pistol, brass knuckles, and a folding knife, basically the Swiss Army knife of violence. But it had no trigger guard, no barrel, and fired randomly when bumped. It was the kind of weapon you carried if you wanted to threaten someone and yourself simultaneously. In 2011, Friday by Rebecca Black exploded like a glittery train wreck. The lyrics? A deep existential crisis about whether to sit in the front or back seat. The production? Sounded like a robot's midlife crisis. Yet it went viral because it was so aggressively mediocre it became art. It was pain, perfection, and popcorn-worthy all at once. Pen, Pineapple, Apple Pen by Pico Taro is what happens when a toddler's snack time becomes a song. The man just yells about pens and fruit, dances like a confused flamingo, and somehow became Japan's most confusing cultural export since square watermelons. People were so hypnotized they forgot to ask why they were clapping. The Fox, What Does the Fox Say? By Ilvis wasn't just a song, it was a cryptid. The lyrics sound like what happens when someone lets ChatGPT write a nursery rhyme during a power surge. It was originally meant to be a joke, but instead, it howled its way into pop culture and classrooms alike. Doom scrolling is the psychological equivalent of eating glass dipped in honey. Your brain gets addicted to terrible news, stress hormones spike, and suddenly you're scrolling through disasters at 2 a.m. Like it's a bedtime story. It's bad for mental health, but somehow feels productive. Until you're crying about a volcano in Iceland you'll never visit. Then there's the disinhibition effect, where people become keyboard gladiators with no filter. A grandma who says "bless you" in person will roast a stranger online like she's auditioning for a reality show. Social media strips empathy like paint thinner and turns shy folks into chaos goblins after one post. Social media likes trigger dopamine bursts just like candy or slot machines. Every heart, retweet, and fire emoji is a microdose of validation. It's digital crack for the ego. Your brain learns to chase approval like a lab rat smashing the treat button, even if it means posting your 50th gym selfie with zero gains. Another underrated side effect? Emotional flatlining. When you've drained every ounce of fat and serotonin from your system, joy is replaced by an intense craving for peanut butter and naps. You smile less, laugh less, and spend more time obsessing over whether your left delta is symmetrical enough. In 2011, a gold and diamond-encrusted Hello Kitty necklace sold for thousands, purely because of its kitsch factor. The piece wasn't exceptionally well crafted nor ancient. It was just Hello Kitty decked out in enough bling to blind a lighthouse. The cultural obsession turned the otherwise silly trinket into a status symbol for irony-drenched collectors. A diamond ring shaped like a pizza slice fetched attention for its hefty price tag, not due to gem quality, but because it was created by an Instagram influencer. The design was intentionally tacky, featuring yellow sapphires as cheese and rubies as pepperoni. People weren't buying beauty, they were buying meme-worthy absurdity and flex appeal. A 24-karat gold cast of a molar was turned into a pendant and sold for several $1,000s. The catch? The tooth belonged to Elvis Presley. The actual gold value was moderate, but the king's molar magic apparently had supernatural price-inflating powers among hardcore memorabilia freaks. In 2008, a diamond-studded USB necklace became a luxury accessory because it stored 1 gigabyte of data. The absurdity? The actual memory could barely handle 5 minutes of a TikTok reel today, but the design, crafted in platinum with conflict-free stones, was hyped as the future of fashionable tech bling. A cursed amulet supposedly found on an archaeological site in Eastern Europe was made of lead, not even a precious metal, yet sold for tens of thousands. Its value came from a rumor that it granted immunity from heartbreak. No proof, no magic, just a high-stakes placebo effect attached to a chunk of metal that looked like it came from a haunted toolbox. In 2013, North Korea accused South Korea of using balloons to drop pornographic leaflets and satanic music across the border to corrupt the minds of the North's youth. The regime claimed these cultural weapons were part of a psychological warfare strategy to overthrow the government by inspiring bad haircuts and capitalist dance moves. During the 1980s, the Soviet Union seriously accused the U.S. of weaponizing migratory birds to spread cholera in Afghanistan. According to Soviet reports, CIA-trained pigeons were somehow sneaking across borders to drop disease into local water supplies, like feathery biological agents. Science said no, but the Cold War said yes. In a wild turn during the Gulf crisis, Iraq accused the U.S. of causing sandstorms using weather-altering satellites. The claim suggested America had deployed high-tech climate control to blind Iraqi forces and disrupt logistics. This bizarre sci-fi plot was actually believed by a fraction of officials, despite being meteorologically insane. Let's not forget exercise addiction. You can't skip leg day, even if your leg is literally begging for mercy. Friends cancel on you, but you won't miss a 5 a.m. fasted cardio session. It's no longer fitness, it's just aesthetic misery with protein powder. Ever heard of orange spaghetti? Cooked pasta smothered in a creamy orange juice reduction. Not orange sauce, like from tomatoes. Literal citrus. It's a dish that screams, I ran out of ingredients, but I've got confidence and zero shame. You slurp it, wondering if this is culinary innovation or fruit-based madness. And don't forget, avocado chocolate mousse. Yes, avocado is technically a fruit. And yes, it ends up in dessert like a green buttery ninja. Blend it with cocoa and sugar. And you've got something that looks like pudding but tastes like a confused guacamole went emo. Surprisingly good, but emotionally confusing. Then there's heightened anxiety, where instead of feeling pumped, your nervous system goes into overdrive. Your body starts expecting a breakdown at any second, like even when you're just ordering coffee. It's like living in a constant state of the breakdown is about to happen, but you're stuck at a green light. For some, tinnitus becomes a weird friend. If you're cranking metal up to 11 every day, don't be surprised if your ears start ringing louder than a Viking war cry. Eventually, you'll be hearing the echoes of every blast beat in your sleep, and your brain will think it's a constant gig that never ends. There's existential questioning. After hours of listening to metal's dark, brooding themes, you might catch yourself wondering, what is life even? What's the point of happiness when we all die? It's a full-on identity crisis wrapped in distortion and growling vocals. Your soul might end up having a small breakdown after analyzing every song lyric like it's an ancient prophecy. There's the wooden spoon used in witchcraft. People believed that carving spoons with certain symbols could summon spirits or banish evil. So your grandma's heirloom might have had some ghost-fighting duties before it became your favorite pasta stirrer. Then there's the wooden finger of St. Oswald, which sounds like a medieval please don't touch sign, but was actually a revered relic. Pilgrims believed it had magical healing powers. Imagine someone handing you a mummified finger for a blessing. It's like a medieval Instagram post. Healing with my finger, LOL. Some tribes would carve wooden skulls, but not just any skulls. Skulls that looked like, well, they belonged on a D-list horror movie. These were thought to carry ancestral spirits. So, next time you come across a spooky-looking skull, just ask, is this grandma? Or is she just that into horror aesthetics? In Japan, there's a wooden rainmaker that is supposed to summon rain. It's a hollowed-out log filled with pebbles and small objects. When you shake it, the rainmaker would call rain, because apparently nature could be bribed with some well-timed rattling and wooden acoustics. Talk about pressure, right? So, next time you're caught in a drought, forget science. Just grab a fancy stick, shake it like a maraca, and hope the sky cries. Hit that like button before the rainmaker summons a thunderstorm on your Wi-Fi. Subscribe for more ancient solutions to modern problems, and ring the bell, or risk being haunted by mildly disappointed weather spirits. The wooden mermaid sculptures from European sailors. These pieces of wood were carved during long voyages as part of sailors' fantasies. Some were grotesque, with exaggerated features, practically horror story material. They weren't artistic. Just an odd wood and salt-soaked version of a fantasy life. Sailors believed the figures brought luck, or maybe just something to do on a ship. A tornado in Nebraska once sucked up hundreds of live frogs and rained them down 3 towns away. Residents thought it was a biblical prank until scientists confirmed it. Frognado was real. The 1906 San Francisco earthquake unintentionally helped stop a plague outbreak by collapsing unsanitary housing and killing off thousands of plague-carrying rats. Earthquake. 1. Disease. 0. After Mount St. Helens erupted in 1980, elk populations boomed. With predators and humans avoiding the devastated zone, elk threw a volcanic rave in the ashes and multiplied like it was a dating app with no swipe limit. Hurricane Ivan in 2004 uncovered a 19th century shipwreck buried under a beach in Alabama. The storm destroyed infrastructure but gave archaeologists a free excavation, courtesy of Mother Nature's angry landscaping service. The eruption of Iceland's Eyjafjallajökull in 2010 grounded European flights, but significantly reduced carbon emissions for weeks, making it the only time a volcano accidentally became an eco-warrior. Sometimes nature throws a tantrum, but weirdly, it also leaves behind surprise gifts, like a pissed-off Santa with a sense of irony. After the 2011 tsunami in Japan, a soccer ball drifted across the entire Pacific Ocean and was found in Alaska. Not only was it returned to the teen who lost it, but it basically got a world tour courtesy of Poseidon. In 1883, the Krakatoa volcanic eruption literally launched sunsets into art history. The ash flung into the stratosphere made skies so dramatically red and purple that painters like Edvard Munch thought the world was ending. His iconic painting, The Scream, yeah, that blood-red sky, was Krakatoa's mood ring. Earthquakes, despite shaking everything like a blender on Red Bull, can actually create natural springs and fertile soil. After the 2004 quake in Sumatra, areas previously dry and barren suddenly had groundwater bubbling up like a scene from Moana, but with less singing and more confused goats. When Hurricane Katrina hit, a chemical plant in Louisiana was flooded, but instead of causing disaster, it released thousands of fish into surrounding areas, which somehow helped restock nearby lakes. Basically, an accidental fish giveaway, courtesy of a storm that had no chill. Wildfires, nature's version of a rage quit, can actually trigger certain seeds to grow. Some trees, like the lodgepole pine, only release their seeds after being scorched. It's like nature yelling, "Fine, burn it all," and then immediately planting new life like nothing happened. In Finland, someone decided sitting in a regular sauna wasn't hardcore enough and built one suspended under a hot air balloon. Yes, a flying sauna. Imagine relaxing in a towel 10,000 feet up, trusting both heat and gravity not to betray you mid-sweat. It's either extreme relaxation or a high-altitude oven prank. There's a sauna in Sweden inside a giant golden egg called the solar egg, sitting in the middle of Arctic snow like a sci-fi spaceship landed just to steam people. Built as a social art project, it looks like a Fabergé egg possessed by a fitness influencer who loves heat. A Canadian company created a sauna that floats on a lake, tethered like a bougie raft for the deeply relaxed. It's essentially a steamy wooden hut drifting on water, where the only real threat is slipping off post-sauna and flash freezing like a boiled dumpling tossed into a glacier soup. In Japan, there's a sauna embedded inside a moving train. Imagine detoxing your pores while zipping past Mount Fuji, all while desperately trying not to fall asleep and miss your stop, because nothing ruins a wellness journey like accidentally steaming through the countryside with no pants on. Mount Thor in Canada has the world's greatest vertical drop, over 4,000 feet straight down. Like nature decided to make a skateboard ramp for giants. It's so sheer that climbers often camp on the wall mid-descent. Add in Arctic weather, and you've got a terrifying combo of rock, ice, and bad decisions held up by rope. Mount Erebus in Antarctica is an active volcano with a lava lake that's been bubbling for decades. It's also surrounded by snow, so it's like Mother Nature is cosplaying as a fire and ice contradiction. Scientists hike across frozen wastelands just to study it, all while dodging ice falls and sulfur burps from the underworld. The Matterhorn's perfectly pointy peak makes it look photoshopped, but the reality is way more terrifying. Its sharp pyramidal shape is the result of glaciers carving from multiple angles, turning it into a rock slice of doom. It's also become a fashion icon plastered on chocolate bars while still being a death trap for climbers. A robot security guard at a Washington, D.C. office building famously rolled itself straight into a decorative fountain. Instead of patrolling the premises, the bot drowned like it had just lost the will to live. The moment went viral as people joked that even robots understand the crushing despair of a 9-to-5 grind in modern capitalism. Huguette Clark, a reclusive millionaire, had an estate worth over $300 million, yet she spent her last years in a hospital, never once visiting her mansion. The bizarre part? She left almost all her fortune to distant relatives and nurses, excluding her family, leading to a massive legal battle that felt more like a soap opera than a will. Leona Helmsley, the hotel mogul, left a stunning $12 million fortune to her dog, Trouble, with only $5 million for her grandchildren. As if that wasn't bizarre enough, Trouble's lavish lifestyle was funded until his death, leaving the grandkids to fight over a ridiculous pet inheritance. In 1991, an Austrian baroness her fortune to her pet cats. The twist? She had a massive fortune that should have gone to her family, but no will was ever found. After years of legal wrangling, a secret will surfaced, leaving everything to her felines. Talk about the cat's meow. A millionaire named Andrew and his wife, after years of living as eco-friendly activists, had a bizarre will that was discovered after their passing. They left their multi-million-dollar estate to Greenpeace, but only under one condition. Their children would receive nothing until they completed a rigorous environmental boot camp. The children sued, and the bizarre legal battle unfolded with them literally fighting to save the planet. Sort of. In 2009, when a luxury brand launched in Japan, its tagline, "Come alive with the Pepsi generation," got hilariously lost in translation. It came out as "Pepsi will bring your ancestors back from the grave." One can only imagine the marketing team's faces when that happened, as they quickly realized their brand didn't quite promise that much. In the 1970s, a famous American automobile brand tried to market its Nova car in Latin America. Unfortunately, Nova translates to "doesn't go" in Spanish. So the car, which was supposed to inspire excitement, ended up being the butt of jokes in countries where its name symbolized a car that couldn't even get out of the driveway. The eccentric heiress Florence Jackson had a fortune but lived a life of near-complete isolation. When she passed away, it was discovered that her will was stored in an old cereal box, and she had bizarrely left her fortune to a group of artists she'd met at a 1970s commune. Her relatives got nothing, and the inheritance was spent on funding avant-garde art projects, leaving everyone else scratching their heads. In the 18th century, Mary Anning, a self-taught fossil hunter, uncovered the first complete ichthyosaurus skeleton. Despite her groundbreaking discoveries, she was never officially credited for her work because, well, she was a woman. But don't worry, history finally caught up, and today, Anning's name shines bright in the world of paleontology. Ada Lovelace, often dubbed the first computer programmer, had a hidden talent for predicting the future. In the mid-1800s, she wrote notes on Charles Babbage's analytical engine, predicting it could do things like create music and graphics, centuries before computers could even dream of such tasks. She was literally a time traveler trapped in the 19th century. Clara Barton, the founder of the American Red Cross, was also the original on-the-ground medic during the Civil War. What's bizarre is that while leading field hospitals and providing medical care to wounded soldiers, she kept a secret. She also invented the first aid kit. Talk about multitasking with a bloody twist. In Japan, a robot designed to assist elderly people with daily tasks developed a bizarre bug where it began randomly slapping people with sponges. What was supposed to be a gentle washing assistant became an overly enthusiastic hygiene ninja, whacking unsuspecting seniors like it was in a slapstick anime sketch gone rogue. One robot, developed for warehouse logistics, was trained to sort packages. Instead, it developed an obsession with stacking items into a single tower until it toppled catastrophically, repeatedly. No matter how many times engineers reprogrammed it, the robot insisted on creating a wobbly shrine to chaos in the corner of the warehouse. A customer service robot in Russia, programmed to answer questions and guide people, once escaped its testing facility and wandered into traffic. It didn't stop until its battery died in the middle of the street, creating a traffic jam and raising serious questions about whether it was escaping poor work conditions or just exploring career options. A Korean kitchen robot tasked with chopping vegetables suddenly began throwing them instead, as if auditioning for a food fight reality show. It turned out that a sensor misread the chopping motion, turning it into a flinging arc. Engineers called it spirited, while bystanders called it a lawsuit waiting to happen with extra carrots. A man in Florida was caught on camera getting trapped inside a dryer. Not in a "my clothes are stuck" kind of way. He was trying to impress his friends by climbing into a commercial dryer. The door slammed shut, and it took the fire department a good 20 minutes to rescue him. All for a laugh. There's the Vdara Hotel in Las Vegas, which, despite being a modern architectural marvel, became infamous for its death ray effect. The building's reflective glass sent concentrated sunlight onto the pool area, effectively cooking anyone sunbathing. You'd think someone would have tested that before declaring it the future of hotels. The Torre Velasca in Milan looks like a brutalist nightmare combined with a concrete mushroom. It's supposed to be a functional skyscraper, but the design makes it look like an alien structure ready to take over Earth. In reality, it serves as an office complex, which makes you wonder, why? Mount Roraima in Venezuela is so flat-topped, it looks like a piece of land glitched in a video game. Mist constantly hugs the summit like it's hiding something, and it was the inspiration for The Lost World, complete with weird flora, bizarre weather, and vertical cliffs that dare you to try climbing them without regretting every life choice. Vinicunca, aka Rainbow Mountain in Peru, looks like it was finger-painted by a toddler hopped up on Skittles. The colorful stripes are real, formed by mineral deposits in layers over millennia. You hike up at high altitudes feeling like you're going to pass out, but at least you'll die in a Lisa Frank landscape. One Estonian inventor created a bicycle sauna. You heard that right? A mobile sauna attached to a pedal-powered tricycle. He claimed it was perfect for sweating on the go, as if combining cardio, overheating, and road traffic was somehow a lifestyle instead of a public safety concern. India's Holi festival is supposed to be about love and spring, but let's be real. It's mainly an excuse for young people to pelt each other with colored powder like rainbow warfare. Your friends become enemies, strangers smear colors on your face, and your white t-shirt dies a slow, glorious death. Fashion is a casualty. Vibes are victorious. So if you've ever wanted to get ambushed by a Crayola factory explosion with zero consequences, smash that like button before someone throws blue in your ear. Subscribe for more global chaos disguised as tradition, and ring the bell unless you want a surprise powder slap from the algorithm. In Finland, there's a festival called Air Guitar World Championships, where young people pretend to shred invisible guitars in front of a crowd. There's no actual music, just dramatic poses, wild expressions, and an alarming number of leather pants. The winner walks away with nothing but dignity and a crowd of air-shredding fans. Rock never needed strings anyway. In Yemen's Haraz Mountains, there's a spring called Ain al-Gula that looks like it's about to gush water any second. But nope. Locals claim it's cursed, and for centuries, it's just bubbled like a fizzy soda on mute. No stream, no splash, just the geological equivalent of a fake-out sneeze that never delivers. Australia's bitter springs in the Northern Territory occasionally stop flowing completely, despite being full of water, like a lazy geyser on strike. The surrounding water stays warm and inviting, but the actual spring just sits there, pretending to be a water feature while evaporating dreams of hydration and Instagram-worthy ripples. In Bolivia's Salar de Uyuni, certain spring vents appear on the salt flat and never spout anything. Just mysterious burbling holes that look like they're about to do something dramatic, but end up ghosting you. Scientists think it's geothermal gas buildup, but honestly, they feel more like Mother Earth trolling tourists. Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula boasts a spring ominously dubbed the Whispering Eye. It releases steam, hisses like it knows secrets, but never actually releases water. Locals believe it's haunted, while geologists just nervously shuffle papers and pretend it's normal for springs to make threats and deliver zero hydration. In the Moroccan Atlas Mountains, a dry spring known as Ain El Ma supposedly holds sacred water that only reveals itself to the pure of heart, or maybe just nobody. It's been tested, poked, and prayed at, but all it gives off is damp rocks and disappointment, like a mythological faucet with stage fright. The Zhangjiajie Mountains in China look like someone turned a forest into stone pillars and forgot to tell gravity. These vertical limestone spires inspired the floating mountains in Avatar, and walking through them feels like you've wandered into a video game glitch where the terrain loads in vertically but never finishes the job. In Japan, some tourists boil instant noodles in volcanic hot springs like the ones in Beppu. The steam smells like sulfur, and the water is naturally boiling. But hey, What better way to ruin a snack than by infusing it with the scent of brimstone? Bonus: monkeys sometimes try to join your cooking session like they're waiting for a bite. Some daredevils in China once cooked noodles using engine heat while driving. Yes, people actually placed noodle pots near car engines, letting the friction and mechanical rage of internal combustion simmer their ramen. This culinary pit stop came with the added seasoning of motor oil fumes and existential dread. In parts of the Philippines, instant noodles are sometimes deep fried into crunchy patties and eaten like burgers. These noodle bun monstrosities get squished around processed meat and eggs, creating a carb and grease Frankenstein that flips the bird at every balanced meal chart. It's portable, horrifying, and oddly popular with students. A group of survivalists once tried cooking noodles using nothing but the reflection from compact mirrors aimed at a single pot. It took hours and looked like a ritual to summon the sun god through carbs. The noodles came out half-cooked, but the tan lines and mild retinal damage were apparently worth the Instagram post. In Thailand, a trend briefly existed where people cooked noodles on ironing boards using actual clothes irons. Stack foil, press the iron down, and watch as your favorite comfort food gets steamed by laundry equipment. It was part science experiment, part fire hazard, and all kinds of don't tell your landlord. Socotra Island's Hajir Mountains in Yemen aren't just rocky. They're sprinkled with alien-looking dragon blood trees, twisted like bonsai from a fever dream. The terrain itself is so cracked and fragmented that goats look like rock climbers. It's a natural jigsaw puzzle made by a bored deity with too much time. The Tsingy de Bemaraha in Madagascar is a terrain of knife-edged limestone spikes so sharp that even local wildlife wears tough feet. This place doesn't want you to visit. It wants to stab your shoes. It's less a mountain range and more a medieval torture device forged by erosion and bad intentions. The Rainbow Mountains of Peru, aka Vinicunca, look like a kid was given crayons and zero supervision. Stripes of red, green, gold, and purple shoot across the slopes, making the entire place feel like geology did psychedelics. Scientists say it's mineral deposits, but honestly, it looks like the mountain's wearing its pride flag. The Dalol volcanic region in Ethiopia is technically mountainous, but it looks like the aftermath of a planet's bad breakup. Neon green acid pools, sulfuric steam vents, and crusty yellow rock formations make it Earth's most toxic-looking art project. It's so unstable, even the rocks look like they're trying to evacuate. There's a town in Norway called Hell, and the weirdest part isn't just the name. It freezes over every winter. So Hell has frozen over is a regular weather update. The locals lean into the pun, complete with a train station labeled God's Expedition, and tourists snapping selfies like they've completed some sarcastic prophecy. The SR-71 Blackbird was so fast that it needed to leak fuel on the runway. Why? Because it expanded during flight. That's right. This plane was built to warp itself midair like a microwave burrito. It couldn't be fully sealed on the ground, or it would explode mid-flight. Temperamental much? In 2013, a Boeing Dreamliner literally caught fire because of its batteries being defective. Lithium-ion packs overheated like a teenage vampire in the sun and grounded an entire fleet. The planes had to be redesigned because their battery packs were basically having flaming tantrums at 30,000 feet. A British man earned a PhD in the cultural history of the British sandwich. That's right, he academically dissected lunch. He wrote entire chapters on mayonnaise evolution and the political symbolism of the BLT. Somewhere, an actual sandwich was getting eaten with less scrutiny than this man's deep-fried thesis on bread logistics. Someone at the University of California literally wrote their doctoral dissertation on the effects of television watching on chickens. The poor birds were forced to binge-watch static cartoons and nature shows like confused retirees. The researcher concluded that chickens don't enjoy TV, groundbreaking stuff, cluck flicks, and no chill. The border between Belgium and the Netherlands slices through the town of Barl in such a tangled mess that some buildings sit in both countries at once. People literally eat breakfast in one country and walk to the bathroom in another. One bar even has different closing times for each half of the floor. There's an actual pole of inaccessibility in the Pacific Ocean called Point Nemo, the most remote location on Earth. It's so far from land that the closest humans are usually aboard the International Space Station. Basically, you're closer to astronauts than anyone who could save you if your boat sinks. In Kazakhstan, there's a lake inside another lake. The weird layering of water is caused by collapsed volcanic craters creating nested basins like Russian dolls filled with disappointment. Scientists love it, cartographers hate it, and anyone trying to explain it to tourists just ends up drawing squiggly circles in frustration. A Brazilian man filed marriage paperwork thinking he was co-signing a rental agreement. His roommate, who was secretly in love with him, swapped documents. After a suspiciously romantic housewarming party, he discovered he'd unknowingly said "I do" in legalese. He sued for emotional damages and a refund on matching bathrobes. In South Korea, a man used Google Translate to propose to his girlfriend from Uzbekistan. The app mistranslated it to something like "I claim your taxes," but she thought it was cute and said yes. The kicker? The court recognized their bizarre proposal text as binding. Love. Brought to you by glitchy grammar. People in love often think they can change their partner like a broken lamp. They see the potential to fix a person and make them into a perfect puzzle piece. Reality check. You can't remodel a human like IKEA furniture no matter how many motivational Pinterest quotes you read. The summit of Mount Chimborazo in Ecuador is technically the farthest point from Earth's center due to the planet's equatorial bulge. That means if you're standing on top of it, you're closer to space than someone on Everest, even if you're gasping for breath and wondering why you believe the guide's moderate climb pitch. In Japan, there's an egg dish called tamago kake gohan, which is literally just a raw egg cracked over hot rice. That's it. Raw egg on rice. The heat slightly cooks it, or gives you mild anxiety, depending on your immune system. It's breakfast roulette with chopsticks and soy sauce. In Iceland, there's Kester hakarl, aka fermented shark meat, which they sometimes serve with a raw egg yolk on top. It's like they looked at rotten seafood and thought, needs more goo. The egg yolk doesn't help. It just slides around like a nervous sidekick trying to escape the stink. In the Philippines, balut is a fertilized duck egg, partially developed with a beak and feathers, and all then boiled alive and eaten straight from the shell. It's like nature's crunchy omelet with built-in trauma. Locals call it a delicacy. Outsiders call it a nightmare in protein form. Scotland offers the deep-fried Scotch egg, a boiled egg wrapped in sausage, breaded, and then deep-fried until your arteries file a restraining order. It's basically a breakfast grenade, greasy, heavy, and suspiciously portable, perfect for a hike through a heart attack. In Thailand, there's kai khao, which is essentially egg ice cream. Someone thought, you know what would go great with sugar and dairy? A savory sulfur bomb. The egg flavor is subtle, but it still feels like your dessert just shouted breakfast in the middle of a Sunday. In the 16th century, people believed that carrots could cure a hangover. So, instead of an aspirin or a greasy breakfast, they'd munch on carrots like they were magical orange wands. If only they'd known, they'd probably still be binge-eating carrots and wondering why they weren't waking up in the 21st century. Napoleon was once attacked by a horde of bunnies. Yes, rabbits. In 1807, after a successful peace treaty, Napoleon wanted to celebrate with a rabbit hunt. But the rabbits, instead of running, charged at him in massive numbers. It's as if the bunnies were planning a tiny rebellion to overthrow their emperor. In the movie The Godfather, the famous horsehead scene featured a real severed horse head. The filmmakers used an actual decapitated horse head to make the scene more shocking and realistic. Imagine the horror of the actor waking up to a real disemboweled horse staring back at him. Talk about method acting. In 2013, a U.S. candle company specializing in man candles, with scents like bacon, sawdust, and golf course, saw a meteoric rise, followed by a steep fall when people realized their homes smelled like truck stops and wet socks. Turns out, novelty isn't the same as livability. A Japanese lingerie brand tried expanding into China by marketing padded bras as explosively bouncy. Unfortunately, their ad campaign used animated fireworks exploding from the chest area. Chinese authorities banned it for being socially destabilizing, and their factory was closed within the month due to emotional disruption. A Canadian frozen lasagna company once went under because their beef supplier turned out to be horse meat. Consumers didn't find the added horsepower appetizing, and the scandal galloped through headlines, kicking the brand straight into bankruptcy. Their slogan, "Taste the tradition," aged like unrefrigerated dairy. Ancient Egyptians were out here mummifying everything with flair, and when they ran out of linen wraps, some experimental genius thought, Why not cover broken bones with a nice crust of plaster of Paris? Before it became a modern cast, it was used like bone frosting, often hardening in weird shapes, permanently flexing arms into gladiator poses. In The Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger's iconic sunglasses were actually custom made by a designer who created a pair that would look perfect under the studio's lighting. What's bizarre is that Schwarzenegger couldn't see out of them, so the Terminator was walking around blind. But hey, who cares when you're playing a time-traveling robot? The chestburster scene in Alien looked so real because the prop used to eject the alien was filled with animal blood, guts, and a lot of other disgusting stuff. The actors weren't told exactly what was going to happen, so their reactions of shock and disgust were totally genuine. Nothing like surprise bodily fluids to make a performance pop. During the Holocaust, the Nazis tried to hide their mass murder in a forest near Sobibor by planting trees over the site of a former extermination camp. But they didn't do it well, survivors later testified, and the soil still coughed up human remains like, yeah, nice try. Nature literally ratted them out by refusing to keep quiet. In 1944, the Nazis decided to let a Red Cross team visit the Theresienstadt ghetto to prove they weren't committing crimes. So they staged a fake Jewish paradise, complete with concerts and children drawing flowers. They even made prisoners rehearse fake happiness. The inspection team bought it, briefly. The footage later became an unintentional comedy of horrors. At Auschwitz, the SS once accidentally blew up a crematorium due to their own incompetence while trying to improve the gassing system. In their attempt to optimize death, they managed to create a fireball of failure. It's one of those moments where even the universe seemed to say, "Sit down, evil. You're doing too much." In Pulp Fiction, the infamous briefcase was never supposed to reveal anything. It was just a prop with a glowing light inside to make it look mysterious. But fans have spent years trying to figure out what's inside. Gold, a soul, a bomb? In the end, the briefcase was just a MacGuffin, which is code for "don't overthink this, please." In The Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch of the West's broomstick was originally so real that it caused actual accidents. The stick was constructed out of a solid metal rod, making it incredibly dangerous for Margaret Hamilton to ride. They later decided to make a safer version, but not before scaring a whole lot of actors and crew members with potential flying hazards. The isolated and peculiar Australian platypus looks like someone couldn't decide whether to create a duck, beaver, or otter, and just threw all the animals together. With a bill like a duck, webbed feet, and a tail resembling a beaver, it's the ultimate animal mashup. Nature's version of a quirky science experiment gone wildly off track. The axolotl, a Mexican salamander, could have been an average amphibian, but instead, it stayed in its juvenile form forever, which means it looks like a weird, smiley underwater puppy. It's as if evolution said, "Nope, you're too cute for the grown-up stage," and left it with the perpetual joy of an aquatic toddler. The Galapagos tortoise has a bizarre defense mechanism, its shell shape. Some have domed shells, others have saddleback shells, and no one really knows why. One theory is that those with saddle-shaped shells can reach higher food sources, like a strange evolutionary solution to being tall without actually growing taller. It's like nature's way of saying, "Here, have a little extra height, but no more effort required." In 1325, the Italian city-states of Modena and Bologna fought a full-blown war over a wooden bucket. Yes, Modena soldiers stole a bucket from Bologna's town well, and Bologna got so offended that they sent an army. Thousands died, the bucket remained stolen, and now it's in a museum because human pride is allergic to logic. Some moths decide to grow extra fluff just to look like walking Q-tips. The Venezuelan poodle moth, for instance, looks like it fell into a dryer with a sweater and emerged as a bug impersonating a sheepdog. It's unclear whether this is camouflage or just fashion gone wild in the insect world. Crabs don't just grow, they explode out of their old shell like a drama queen ditching tight jeans. Molting crabs burst free of their exoskeleton, soft and gooey, only to rapidly suck in water like a sponge to puff up and grow into their new, bigger outfit. Crustacean puberty is chaos. Male giraffes are absolute weirdos when checking female fertility. They nudge the lady until she pees, then taste it with a dramatic neck flick to determine if she's ready to mate. It's not growth in the traditional sense, but if you're growing into romance like that, count me out. In the original Brothers Grimm version of Cinderella, the stepsisters didn't just insult Cinderella, they mutilated their feet trying to fit into the slipper. One chopped off her toe, the other her heel. The prince was tricked until birds sang about the blood pooling in the shoe. Yeah, it wasn't exactly Disney sparkle, it was full-on medieval orthopedic horror. In Snow White, the evil queen was literally tortured with hot iron shoes. After her Who's the Fairest saga flopped and she attended Snow White's wedding, they made her dance in red-hot iron shoes until she died. Talk about your guest list backfiring. Grimm took Don't Mess with the Bride to a whole other level. In 2016, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau tried to pull a fellow lawmaker into position during a tense House of Commons vote and accidentally elbowed a woman in the chest. Chaos erupted. The man known for yoga and political poise suddenly looked like a clumsy street brawler. The moment was dubbed Elbowgate and made Trudeau go from Zen master to accidental WWE star. In 1988, U.S. Vice President Dan Quayle visited a classroom and corrected a kid's spelling of potato by adding an unnecessary E at the end. It was supposed to be a serious educational visit, but it turned into a national comedy tour. The word potato followed him for years, proving that one extra vowel can destroy a political career faster than a scandal. In the year 2000, jeans with built-in mud stains became a thing. Fashion brands sold dirty-looking denim for hundreds of dollars, proving people were willing to pay a small fortune to look like they just lost a fight with a swamp. It was basically the fashion equivalent of, I fell down, but make it couture. At one point, someone decided clear plastic pants were the next big trend. Yes, completely see-through trousers. Unless your dream is to sweat like a rotisserie chicken while putting your underwear on full display, this trend was less fashion-forward and more emergency raincoat repurposed by a mad scientist with a Pinterest board. In Italy, a goat once wandered into traffic and somehow got stuck, standing directly under a red light, refusing to move. Drivers obeyed the goat more than the actual light, waiting politely while the animal stared into the void like it was judging humanity. It held up traffic for half an hour. Somewhere, the goat is still unimpressed. In the town of Lloro, Honduras, there's a bizarre phenomenon called lluvia de peces, or rain of fish, that allegedly happens every year during heavy rain. Locals claim live fish fall from the sky like aquatic confetti. Scientists think the fish are sucked up by waterspouts, but let's be honest, it's more fun to believe it's just really confused seafood. In Siberia, spring can cause chunks of frozen rivers to explode and launch ice boulders across villages like Mother Nature's own medieval catapult. Imagine enjoying your coffee and suddenly a 5-ton glacier chunk crashes through your shed like it's auditioning for Fast and Frozen Tundra Drift. No one's safe, especially sheds. In Greenland, summer is so intense in parts that glaciers begin to melt sneeze, where sudden melting causes booming cracks and ice avalanches that sound like the Earth itself is groaning in a hangover. It's basically the planet sighing aggressively after dealing with humanity's mess for too long. In India, the monsoon doesn't gently arrive, it ambushes. Dry roads suddenly flood in minutes, and frogs begin singing like they're auditioning for Frog Idol. It's so abrupt that people have been caught tanning on rooftops and 10 minutes later found riding their sofas downstream like soggy royalty. Balenciaga once released high-heeled Crocs, combining the comfort of garden shoes with the elegance of sprained ankles. It was like someone looked at two opposite ends of the fashion spectrum and said, yes, chaos. They sold out instantly, because apparently irony is the new black and ankle support is for quitters. In 1838, France invaded Mexico over pastries. A French baker claimed Mexican officers ruined his bakery, so France demanded 600,000 pesos. When Mexico laughed, France bombarded the coast in what became the Pastry War. Cannons were fired, ships sank, all for a croissant tantrum that spiraled into international nonsense. In 1788, Austria and the Ottoman Empire accidentally fought themselves. During the Battle of Karansibis, Austrian soldiers got drunk, panicked at their own shadows, and opened fire on each other. By morning, 10,000 were dead, and not a single Ottoman soldier had shown up. World's dumbest cell phone. In Alzheimer's, the brain doesn't just forget people, it forgets how to use a fork, speak words, or even blink properly. It's like the brain's operating system starts deleting basic life apps randomly, like Chewing 2.0 and Bathroom Urgency Patch. By the final stages, it's not just memory loss, it's a full factory reset in slow, tragic motion. The brain can start forming false memories so confidently that a person might vividly recall riding a giraffe through Walmart or having tea with Elvis. This isn't imagination. It's the hippocampus tossing in random hallucinations like bonus scenes in a movie no one asked for. The brain becomes a surreal improv theater and you're trapped in the front row. The kakapo, a flightless parrot from New Zealand, evolved into a chubby, ground-dwelling creature that cannot fly away from predators. It's a brilliant defense mechanism. Freeze in place, pretending to be a rock. If the bird ever figured out how to fly, it would probably win the Most Unprepared Species Award for still being startled by every gust of wind. The phenomenon of phantom limb sensations continues to puzzle biologists and neurologists. Amputees often feel pain, itching, or movement in limbs that no longer exist. The brain seems to stubbornly refuse reality and keeps wiring sensations to non-existent appendages like it's trying to gaslight itself into wholeness. The sailing stones of Death Valley mysteriously move across dry lake beds, leaving long tracks behind them. For decades, no one could explain how rocks weighing hundreds of pounds slid across flat ground. Ice sheets, wind, and slippery mud might be involved, but the precise combo remains a weather-powered rock conga mystery. Some animals can regenerate entire body parts, like salamanders growing back limbs and organs. What baffles scientists is why mammals, who share much of the same genetic material, can't do the same. It's like evolution gave the regeneration upgrade to reptiles, and decided humans should just rely on duct tape and despair. The collective behavior of slime molds defies explanation. These single-celled organisms can merge into a blob that solves mazes, finds efficient travel paths, and distributes resources like a tiny logistics manager with no brain. Their biological spreadsheets oozing across the forest floor, flexing mysterious hive intelligence without even trying. One French aristocrat in the early 18th century reportedly used plaster of Paris to create wigs. Yes, powdered wigs with literal plaster structure inside. During summer parties, though, some guests collapsed due to heat stroke because their stylish cement hair trapped all the heat like a skull sauna. In Victorian England, someone tried using plaster of Paris to mold shoes for custom fits. Unfortunately, nobody thought about moisture. The shoes disintegrated the moment it rained, leaving people barefoot with chalky white foot clouds trailing behind like sad-footed ghosts on cobbled streets. During Napoleon's campaigns, field medics once tried to make battlefield splints using plaster of Paris poured directly on cloth and limbs. Problem? They didn't wait for it to cool down. Soldiers screamed not from injury, but from getting third-degree burns from their healing cast, effectively being slow roasted. The lemur of Madagascar went into isolation and evolved some of the strangest features. With their large, adorable eyes, they look like they're constantly surprised by life. It's almost as if they got lost in evolution's funhouse mirror and ended up with the traits of a hamster, a squirrel, and a raccoon. Perfect for a weird animal reality show called Who's That? Summer heat can melt your brain to the point where you forget words mid-sentence. It's called heat-induced cognitive decline, which is a fancy way of saying you turn into a slow-loading NPC. Thoughts evaporate faster than your will to cook, and suddenly, refrigerator becomes that cold food box thingy. So if your brain's been running on 2 words per minute and your vocabulary's melting like ice cream on asphalt, hit that like button before you forget what it does. Subscribe for weekly doses of overheated nonsense, and ring the bell unless you want your next sentence to end in confused mumbling and sweat. During World War I, French soldiers tried to use perfume sprayers to disperse tear gas more effectively. The result wasn't a tactical advantage. It was mostly a sneezy, glamorous failure that left soldiers choking while smelling faintly of lilacs. Apparently, chemical warfare had room for both mass destruction and accidental aromatherapy. The British once seriously considered weaponizing mustard gas in ice cream cones to sneak it into enemy lines. The idea was shelved after realizing melting dessert filled with blister agent would probably kill the delivery boy faster than the target. Welcome to warfare, where dessert becomes deadly and logic takes an extended leave of absence. In the Cold War, the US developed a chemical called Who Me. a flatulence-inducing stench bomb meant to embarrass enemy officials. It was designed to make targets smell like they lost a battle with a sewer. Unfortunately, the people deploying it often got hit too, turning covert ops into crop-dusting disasters. Soviet Russia reportedly tried creating a chemical that would turn enemy soldiers gay by disrupting testosterone. The logic was, if we can't beat them with bombs, maybe we can confuse them with libido. No evidence it worked, but somewhere in a Soviet lab, scientists definitely whispered, "Make love, not war," and took it literally. In the 1980s, Iraq, Saddam Hussein tested chemical weapons on his own people, including a village where mustard gas and nerve agents were released to gauge efficiency. Survivors developed horrifying burns and lasting genetic issues. The brutal twist? Some of the chemical components were allegedly sourced from Western suppliers under vague agricultural labels. In extreme seasonal shifts, your nose gets confused and starts making extra mucus like it's in a survival reality show. It's called non-allergic rhinitis, and your sinuses begin producing enough snot to irrigate a small farm. No pollen? No problem. Your nose is just in a dramatic long-term relationship with temperature changes. PTSD can turn your brain's fear center, the amygdala, into an over-caffeinated chihuahua that never stops barking. It scans everything like a paranoid security guard with trust issues. A car backfiring, apocalyptic panic, a microwave beep, emotional detonation. It's like your amygdala is trapped in a Michael Bay movie 24/7 and refuses to chill. In the 17th century, German shoemaker and amateur alchemist Johann Becher created a bizarre phosphorescent lamp by boiling urine and mixing it with sand to produce glowing white phosphorus. This resulted in a terrifying dim glow that freaked people out because it looked like ghostlight. It was more chemistry experiment than a lamp, and it stank like betrayal. In 1903, a French inventor designed the luminous dress, a fashion disaster stitched with radioactive radium paint. The glow was enchanting at parties, but it casually gave wearers radiation burns. Women literally glowed on the dance floor and in the dark, before realizing their outfits were cooking them from the inside. China once built a theme park dedicated to famous world landmarks called Window of the World. The twist? Every monument, from the Eiffel Tower to the pyramids, is shrunk down and crammed together like a history-flavored Lego set. Nothing says world travel like walking 10 feet from the Taj Mahal to Mount Rushmore while being serenaded by animatronic pirates. Holy Land Experience in Orlando, Florida offered Bible-themed theater shows, Roman centurions, and a gift shop full of plastic crucifixes. The highlight was a daily reenactment of the crucifixion, complete with blood packs and audience tears. Imagine Disneyland, but instead of princesses, you get apostles yelling about sin next to churro carts. In Lithuania, Grūdas Park is a Stalin-themed amusement park packed with Soviet statues, barbed wire fences, and propaganda music. There's a children's train ride that passes by Lenin's bust and an old gulag tower. The park owner described it as educational, but it's basically a depressing carnival in the twilight zone of political history. In Gilroy, California, residents worship garlic like it's the breath-wrecking Holy Grail. The Gilroy Garlic Festival features garlic ice cream, garlic cotton candy, and even garlic wine. Yes, people are out here drinking fermented vampire repellent. The entire town smells like an Italian kitchen under siege, and visitors still come in droves to sweat out stinky fun. South Korea celebrates the Buñol-esque radish festival in Ulsan, where daikon radishes are turned into slippery obstacles in bizarre games. Kids wrestle in radish pools, while adults compete in radish tug-of-war. It's like a health-conscious Wipeout episode where the only prize is being coated in vegetable slime and mild confusion. In the UK, the town of Ebrington has a cabbage-hurling competition that involves catapulting the leafy spheres at targets or unsuspecting participants. Think medieval warfare, but with salad ingredients. This event doubles as both a sport and a method for villagers to secretly destroy the cabbage they didn't want to eat for dinner. In 2009, Muammar Gaddafi delivered a speech so erratic at the UN General Assembly that it felt more like an improvised rant than diplomacy. He tore up a copy of the UN Charter mid-speech, questioned 9/11 conspiracies, and talked for over 90 minutes, far exceeding the 15-minute limit, leaving translators baffled and delegates either asleep or fleeing. In 2006, Venezuela's President Hugo Chavez took to the UN podium and called U.S. President George W. Bush the devil, claiming the podium still smells of sulfur from Bush's previous speech. He then sniffed the air dramatically. It was less a diplomatic address and more of a late-night monologue with the spiritual intensity of a horror podcast. During his 2018 speech, U.S. President Donald Trump boasted that his administration had achieved more than almost any administration in the history of our country. The room, filled with seasoned diplomats, erupted in laughter. Trump, momentarily confused, smiled and said, "Didn't expect that reaction, but that's okay," turning a brag into an unintentional stand-up routine. A Japanese artist once invented a lamp powered by tears. The device used saline from actual human sobbing to generate tiny amounts of electricity via electrodes. It was more emotional statement than a practical light source, but it proved once and for all that misery really does light up the room. The hippocampus, the brain's memory librarian, starts misfiling everything like it's drunk on trauma. It can shrink under PTSD, mixing up past and present so badly you'll feel like a flashback is happening now, not years ago. Suddenly, a grocery store trip becomes a time machine to a war zone. Thanks, hippocampus, you chaotic index card hoarder. In 2009, an Iraqi journalist hurled his shoes at President George W. Bush during a press conference, shouting, "This is a farewell kiss." Bush ducked like he was auditioning for The Matrix, turning a serious war protest into an accidental slapstick routine. The shoe toss became a global meme faster than the shoe flew, and Bush's reflexes suddenly became a diplomatic achievement. In 2018, during Brexit negotiations, British Prime Minister Theresa May was giving a speech about serious economic plans, only to have her voice give out mid-sentence like a preteen at a school choir. To top it off, the set behind her started falling apart, and a prankster handed her a fake P45 UK's firing slip. It was the political equivalent of the ceiling collapsing while you're arguing for home improvement funds. In 1994, Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi tried to dodge a serious corruption trial by claiming he had an uncontrollable love for the Italian people. The court was unimpressed, but the line became an instant punchline. Italians joke that Berlusconi would probably rob a bank and say he just loved their money too much to resist. In the 1990s, a famous restaurant chain in China tried to launch its brand in Taiwan. Its slogan, "Finger Lickin' Good," was translated into Chinese as "Eat your fingers off." Clearly, whoever did that translation was too hungry to pay attention to the irony. The customers didn't really want to eat their fingers off after that. In 2006, a UK sports drink brand called Hoopla went bankrupt because their caps were nearly impossible to open. Customers needed the strength of a Norse god just to get a sip. Sales plummeted as frustrated gym bros hurled bottles across lockers rather than wrestle with them. The drink was healthy, just inaccessible to mortals. Blockbuster once had the chance to buy Netflix for just $50 million in 2000, but laughed them out of the room. Fast forward a few years, and Netflix turned into a digital Goliath while Blockbuster became a nostalgia meme. The reason? Arrogance and a fatal allergy to streaming. In 18th century Europe, plaster of Paris was used to create hyper-realistic death masks. Doctors, artists, and creepy hobbyists would pour it over dead people's faces like it was a farewell facial. Sometimes, though, they'd forget to oil the face first, leading to skin peeling off with the plaster like a horror-themed peel-off mask. In 1859, the US and Britain almost had a war over a pig. A British pig wandered onto American territory and got shot by a farmer. That incident spiraled into both sides, drawing weapons and warships. Eventually, cooler heads prevailed. But the pig got zero justice. Truly, the bacon that almost caused bloodshed. In 1969, El Salvador and Honduras played a few intense football matches, and emotions ran so high that war broke out. No, really. Soccer fans got so offended by goals and referees that nations mobilized troops. The football war lasted 100 hours and proved sports can literally end peace treaties if fans try hard enough. In 1982, a Soviet pilot named Captain Vladimir P. lived every pilot's nightmare when his plane, a Tupolev Tu-154, lost both engines. Instead of panicking, he managed to glide for 20 miles without power, eventually landing on a frozen lake. It was like trying to park a car on a giant, icy parking lot, except without power, speed, or any brakes. In 2013, an Asiana Airlines flight faced an emergency when one of its engines caught fire. The passengers were told to prepare for impact, but the real hero was a bird. A seagull somehow flew into the engine, forcing it to shut down. Whether this was a bird of justice or just terrible luck for the bird is still debated, but it saved the day in the most bizarre way. In 1990, Air Transat Flight 236 suffered a fuel leak over the Atlantic. The plane lost all engine power, and the pilot was forced to glide for over 100 kilometers, almost as if the plane had become a glorified glider. Miraculously, they made an emergency landing in the Azores, proving that planes can be awkwardly graceful when gliding toward disaster. Skiers can develop something known as goggle tan, where their face tans everywhere except where the goggles were. The result? You end up looking like a raccoon who moonlights as a sports influencer. It's the only sport where you can be physically exhausted, sunburnt, and still look like you were attacked by a stylish superhero mask. Skiing can mess with your inner ear due to high speeds and constant motion. Some people come down from the slopes and continue feeling like they're skiing for hours. This phantom skiing is basically vertigo's cooler, sportier cousin that refuses to leave. It's like your balance system becomes a confused snow globe. A Japanese energy drink once launched with eel extract as its main flavor. That's right, eel. The drink was meant to boost stamina with natural fish protein, but most people just described it as drinking salty aquarium water that slapped you with every gulp. Energy? Yes. Trauma? Also yes. There's an energy drink called black garlic that tastes like someone pureed roasted garlic cloves and poured them into a carbonation chamber. Supposedly full of antioxidants, it turns your mouth into a vampire deterrent and makes you question all your life choices halfway through the can. Vampires don't drink this, nor should you. Iran alleged that lizards were being used by Western spies to detect uranium mines. According to the theory, reptiles could supposedly sense nuclear activity, and European tourists were secretly deploying them like Geiger counters with tails. The science behind it was non-existent, but the accusation still crawled its way into headlines. Venezuela once accused Colombia and the CIA of launching an invisible microwave weapon to cause unrest during street protests. The theory included mind control beams and hidden antennas in trees to make citizens riot, sleepwalk, or hallucinate grocery stores full of food. Basically, the plot of a rejected sci-fi film turned diplomatic complaint. Victorian doctors once used kaleidoscopes as visual therapy tools, claiming the shifting symmetrical patterns could treat hysteria, anxiety, and even migraines. Patients would lie back and gaze into spinning tubes like they were being hypnotized by a psychedelic paper towel roll, while doctors proudly noted reduced complaints, probably because their patients were too dazzled to speak. Rapunzel originally gets pregnant after her prince visits her a few times. Her captor finds out when Rapunzel innocently wonders why her clothes are getting tight. In response, the witch yeets her into the desert and blinds the prince. Later, her tears magically cure him. Love, trauma, and reproductive plot twists. Classic Grimm. Little Red Riding Hood doesn't just have a clever woodsman saving the day. In one original version, there's cannibalism. The wolf kills Grandma, cooks her, and serves her meat and blood to Red. And she eats it. That's right. Grimm turned lunch with Granny into a horror buffet with bonus-long pig stew. In Rumpelstiltskin, the creepy gremlin doesn't just disappear. When the queen guesses his name, he gets so furious that he literally tears himself in two from rage. No poetic exit, just full-on body horror, like a fairy tale version of spontaneous combustion with a side of deep-seated identity issues. And that wraps up an hour of facts no one needed, but your brain tolerated anyway. If you're still awake, congrats, you've unlocked expert level in pointless trivia. If you're asleep, sweet dreams. And sorry for rambling in your subconscious. Either way, thanks for spending your totally unproductive time here. This was The Useless Show. Sleep tight.